begins its conversation.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome on in to Talkback here on a Thursday. To think about the day for a while.
You're not here on Thursday.
Not normally, but both Sandra and Trish are out right now. So glad you could be with us today. We're looking forward to a great show. Coming up at 8:05, Matt Ritchie will be here as we had to change his normal day of Tuesday to today. So we'll look forward to that coming up at 8:05. Man, kind of a crazy day at the White House yesterday. I don't know if you saw President Trump was doing kind of like a joint news conference with the president of South Africa.
Saw that.
And he started to take him to task over what he said is the number of white farmers who have been murdered, who've been killed and had their land taken away. And the South African president was disputing that. So Trump said, dim the lights, and they played basically 3 or 4 minutes of clips of African politicians calling for the murder of white people. And then he had some articles that he said were from deaths and that sort of thing. But it's interesting because most of the traditional media, the response has been unsubstantiated claims by President Trump, things that aren't true that he said. That's been kind of the whole story that you've heard. And interestingly, the first question that was asked of him after all of this was about the plane they're getting from Qatar,
right?
Which he took the NBC reporter to task on that one. That was actually listening to CBS this morning. The first thing they talked about, and they didn't put it into context, the reason why the president was mad about the question was because he was talking about this subject, the South African thing, and then they immediately tried to flip it to that. So I just typed into Grok, which is the Twitter version of AI. I put in how many white South African farmers have been murdered, and they say precise numbers are hard to pin down due to inconsistent data, varying definitions of farm murders. South African police stopped releasing specific farm murder statistics in 2007, merging them into general homicide figures, which complicates tracking. Available data from the TAU and AfroForum, two groups that monitor attacks, suggest around 50 farm murders annually in recent years, with the majority of the victims being white, although exact racial breakdowns are unclear. A 2017 report by the Institute for Security Studies noted 87.6% of farm murder victims, since 1990, were white, but this does not account for the total number of farmers or their racial demographics comprehensively. Let's see. For context, official police data cited in 2018 showed 47 farm murders, a 20-year low, with victims including farmers, workers, and visitors of all races. The broader context is South Africa's high overall murder rate. From April to December last year alone, almost 20,000, where farm murders were a small fraction of that. So claims of targeted white genocide have been widely debunked, with experts pointing to crime, not race, as the primary driver. So, yeah, take that for what you will.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday I use Google News from time to time on my phone, and I opened it up. I actually screenshot, and I'm holding it up for the camera that are watching on Facebook and YouTube. But the very first lead, and this is the headline: Trump confronts South Africa's president in the Oval Office, pushes false claims of white genocide. And that was what caught me. Was it's almost like an editorial in the headline.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When you introduce the word false claims, then you're making an assumption that, you know, the president is saying, I have evidence of something, and they're dismissing it out of hand. Now, the evidence needs to be vetted, and people need to listen to the statements. There were two golfers, I think.
Ernie Els was one of them,
right?
Yeah.
And when they were brought into it, one of them made a comment, I've got some farmer friends that live behind electric fences, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it was a wholehearted endorsement of the claim. Elon Musk was in the room.
Right.
He didn't speak, but I think he's been one of the ones that have been talking this up because this is his home country. And so, of course, President Trump's going to listen to Elon. But what really caught me was the tone of the media coverage, which was what you brought up.
Right.
And it was either outright dismissive or claiming it to be falsehood.
Right. Exactly. And they did the same thing with the election of 2020. So, and this is the same media who told us that Joe Biden was competent. This is the same media that has been wrong on Russia, on so many issues, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump may have overstated it. Perhaps he did. But it does seem like there's at least enough there that to raise concerns, which I think are legitimate.
Right.
So,
and the white crosses, I believe, were not burial sites. He claimed they were burial sites. I think those were memorials.
Right.
The video that was included there with
correct.
But it won't be taken seriously if the media continues to disparage and supposedly debunk out of hand without doing any kind of investigation into it.
Right. And almost to a network or an outlet, they were all using the term ambush, that Trump ambushed.
I heard that word.
Guy.
That was in their talking points, you could tell. That went out to everybody.
Right. So, to say the least, there are some issues in South Africa, and the president has raised this. As you said, Elon Musk has raised this. We had a group of South Africans that came to America a couple of weeks ago as asylum seekers. So apparently the only Africans Democrats don't want to come here. So I was kidding. Come on,
my gosh,
folks.
Al. You're going to get in trouble for that one.
Yeah.
I will say that President Ramaphosa carried himself well. He didn't react harshly. And kudos to him for maintaining his composures, unlike Zelensky when he was in the White House. And but I think it's a matter worthy of investigation and further inquiry. And I hope that we'll get a serious look. Maybe Jake Tapper will take it on. Because he's the new truth monger,
the new arbiter of truth. Yeah.
I mean, the clip of him interviewing, I forget who it was, Laura Trump, maybe.
Yeah, Laura Trump.
And did you play that yesterday? I think
it was either yesterday or the day before.
I forget.
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, or Monday. I don't know. It was one of the days.
But he is just completely out of hand. Knocking this narrative that Joe Biden is less than stellar.
Right.
And then now he's coming out. He's actually saying, "I was wrong.
Yeah,
we were wrong. The conservative media was right." Now the question is that too little, too late to regain any vestige of respect for his reporting? Is he coming over? Has he seen the light? What do you think's going on with Jake Tapper?
I think he's trying to sell books.
Well, the lead-up's been very well. I think he's going to have a good number of sales on his hands.
Well, it seems like it. And just hearing some of the excerpts of what's in it, for example, they had done a town hall with President Biden. It was all completely staged.
That was amazing.
Yeah, and they had, people in the audience with pre-selected questions, but he did so poorly that they never aired it.
Not a single second was ever aired.
They had spent like millions of dollars on it, too.
Right.
Just the level of there has to be more investigation into this. Like, who was really running the White House?
Yeah.
I mean, who really was?
Well, I wonder.
It wasn't him.
No, I have a feeling that Eleanor Roosevelt may no longer be the strongest first lady in history.
There's talk of that, yeah.
I think Dr. Jill may have had quite a bit of influence. And then there was a report, I think I saw Morning Wire this morning, where they ran down a list of about 6 people who had overdue influence or undue influence.
Yeah.
And they may have been the ones running the auto pen and the executive actions and all the stuff coming out of the White House.
But even you have people like Van Jones, who's a hardcore Democrat, who are saying that this has done incredible damage to the Democratic Party. We'll see. People have short memories.
Oh boy, do they?
Yeah, and I have no confidence that the Republicans will do anything, especially Congress, because they're talking about having hearings and blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be theater and waste of time. And, I don't know. So on another note, the big, beautiful bill passed through the House last night. Yeah. So at the same time, while people are excited about some of the provisions in there, I think, the no taxes on tips and overtime are potentially huge. And they also have this new account for babies. Have you heard about this? It's like a $4,000 savings account for newborn babies.
I did hear something being talked about early on, so that was included. It did make it through.
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow.
But unfortunately, a lot of the spending cuts aren't there. It actually is a very large spending bill. And what a lot of people are saying is that a lot of the efforts of DOJ to expose the waste and fraud and abuse in the federal government have been largely wasted in this bill. So
I hate to hear that.
Yeah.
It was interesting. The new Secretary of Education was testifying yesterday, and they were calling her to task because she's asking for like a 20% cut in their budget. And blows me away that these senators and representatives are taking her to task because she wants to cut her budget.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, yeah, the provision for the babies would be the creation of what they're calling Trump accounts. Originally, they had named them MAGA accounts. These will be for children born between January 1st of this year and January 1st of 2029. The federal government would deposit $1,000 into these accounts. Parents and others could contribute up to $5,000 annually. Funds would be invested in a broad stock index and could only be withdrawn for specific uses like higher education, starting a business, or buying a home.
Wow.
So, yeah, the accounts are intended to promote financial security and encourage savings and investing from an early age. Children would not be able to access the funds until the age of 18. Why don't we do something like this with Social Security? You know? It would have been completely different if we had done something like this. And, yeah, but anyhow, we're all looking forward to that $3,000 a month we'll be getting with our thousands and thousands of dollars that we've put in through the years. So, anywho, all right, we're going to take a break. We'll have more Talkback coming up. A lot going on down in the legislature last night. We'll talk more about that when we come back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Independent contractors like those who work for Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash have been left out of a proposed tax break on tip earnings that passed the Senate. Contractors who work for DoorDash sent more than 120,000 letters to lawmakers asking that they be included in any new tax break for tip earners. In an email to Bloomberg, a DoorDash executive expressed disappointment that they were left out, saying in part that tips are tips. You may want to start gathering up all of your loose change. The U.S. Treasury will stop minting pennies within the next month. And state and federal officials are warning about shortages at cash registers as early as January. A Treasury official told a group of states that had gathered to talk about sales taxes that the department may launch a public campaign to get people to clean out their piggy banks. Futures have been mixed this morning after the market tumbled yesterday with the sell-off sparked by deficit concerns and retail earnings. The Dow fell more than 800 points. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
If you'd like to take part in the show today, call the BOM Bank Talkline at 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. And remember, if you're looking to purchase or refinance your home, call Christina Bagwell at the BOM Bank Mortgage Department at 448-2430.
Now back to Talkback, 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
All right, welcome back, everyone, here on Talkback on KSYL. I'm Al Quartermont, along with Nathan Martin, here on this Thursday morning. And our phone number, 442-8255 on the BOM Bank Talkline. Let's go to the phones. Good morning, you're on Talkback.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I wanted to make a correction or print a retraction for something I said yesterday. One of your very sharp, observant callers pointed out that I said there were no prisons in the Bible and that there were prisons in the Bible. What I meant was, obviously the word prison appears, but what those were in Bible times were basically dungeons that people were put into if they were politically troublesome to the people in power. We know when that Paul was in the Philippian jail, that was a Roman prison. But my point was that the Jewish system did not have a system other than debtor's prison of letting an offender be an ongoing burden to society and the culture. They dealt with their crime and they were either restored or they were banished or executed. And that's the problem I see with our system. It's become a way of life. And I know it's part of it's because a lot of people make money from it. That's always the problem. But I think another part of it is we've allowed leftist ideology to creep into our decision making, where we feel like those people are the victims. They're not the victims. They are the criminals that victimize someone else, and they've just demonstrated that they are under certain circumstances unwilling to live according to our laws and our social mores, and so they have to either demonstrate that they are cured of that by doing a lot of hard work and repaying the people they offended against and repaying the citizens of the state and the country for their room and board and the price of guarding them. And then they can be reinstalled in society, or they have to be dealt with. And of course, I know nobody likes execution these days, but there are certain crimes that you just can't make restitution for. And I think the only restitution for the victims' families is execution. Anyway, I just wanted to respond to that and give. It was lazy wording on my part. I should have picked a bit more careful with my verbiage. Anyway, thanks for letting me speak my piece. Y'all have a great day.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, appreciate that. So, all right. Certainly was an active night in Baton Rouge last night, as there was debate in the Senate on several of the bills pertaining to auto insurance reform. At one point, you had several senators who were speaking at length, almost like filibustering, one of which was Senator Jay Luno, according to reports I was seeing on Twitter. And let me just I've been checking this morning. I'm not seeing any reporting on what happened last night in any of the conventional media. I'm guessing because it all ended so late, perhaps. They all missed their deadlines because the way the newspapers are and that kind of thing. I've been checking the Illuminator, the Advocate, not really seeing anything. But here's some of the information that I did get about this. They passed last night 5 strong tort reform bills, but also passed a version of the bill that targets the insurance commissioner that was heavily amended. And we're going to have to see exactly what's all in that. But overall, it looks like for those who are pushing the auto insurance reform, it seemed to be a pretty good day, as they passed modified comparative fault, collateral sources, no pay, no play, and the repeal of the Housley presumption, all of which, according to one of my sources, seems like it was pretty unlikely just a few weeks ago. And by the sounds of things, the trial lawyers are not happy with what happened yesterday. So if we're hearing they're not happy, that's probably a good thing, right?
Well, if you want to know how things are going, judge the mood of the folks who oppose what you like. And if they're happy, you're not having a good day. But if they're not happy, maybe things went well.
Right, exactly. So we'll see. Might try to get Gabe Furman on the show tomorrow to see if he can kind of update us on this. Also saw a story Julia O'Donoghue had published that the House voted 77-16 for a rewrite of state campaign finance laws that could lead to elected officials or candidates using campaign money for things like their mortgage, country clubs, etc. Many Republicans voted to cut off debate on the bill before it was voted on. So I need to check up on that and kind of find out more. But that's what I'm hearing so far from what happened overnight.
I want to know your sources. You got great sources.
Yeah, well, Julia O'Donoghue is one of them on Twitter, who I think she's with the Illuminator. Melinda DeLatte.
I know you call them DeLatte, yeah.
Yeah, is another one. And I saw, let me see if I can find what she had. But it was a pretty active evening, to say the least. So, hang on here. Trying to see what else she has. Yeah, she also had the story about the Mark Wright bill that heavily rewrites campaign finance disclosure requirements, enacts new limits on some things that must be publicly reported, adds new hurdles for the ethics board to investigate violations. So I need to do a little more research on that and figure out what's going on. But also, there was a bill by Stephen Jackson that would require the ethics board to live stream its public meetings and archive the meeting broadcasts. So
that's going to require who to do that?
The ethics board.
Oh, okay.
So that might be good.
Yeah, because that's that to me, that's a needed transparency to hear. The deliberations. Right now, you have to go to the meetings to hear what's going on.
Correct.
Now, obviously, that would not include their executive sessions, because that's where they handle a lot of the sensitive things, making decisions whether to go forward with items or not, and investigation reports. But I want to comment. Monday, House Speaker Pro Tem Representative Mike Johnson made the comment about a new app that was available, or I don't know if it's how new it is, but it was new to me. LaLege, LALEGE. I don't know if you looked it up.
Yeah, I did.
Did you download it?
Yes.
Now on mine, because my Android just updated to the most recent Android like 2 weeks ago. So it's when I tried to download it, it said this is made for an older version of your operating system. So I can't use it. But I was curious, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely probably one of the real perks of that is to be able to access the videos.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking was, and especially if it makes it, you can go to the website, but sometimes it's a little bit cumbersome, fumbling around trying to find exactly where things are. Right. And if the app makes things at your fingertips, I think that could be a wonderful tool.
Yeah, no question about it. All right. Thank you to one of our listeners actually forwarded me Lobby, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. They send out kind of like a morning newsletter, and they sent out a recap of what happened at the legislature yesterday. Let me just read quickly what they have. A late night means a late newsletter, but after roughly 7 hours of debate, the lobby-supported legal reform package cleared a major hurdle. Late yesterday, the Senate officially began hearing bills that are included in the comprehensive common sense legal reform package aimed at reining in jackpot justice, I like that term, and introducing fairness and predictability in our courtrooms. When the upper chamber adjourned just after 10 p.m., 4 bills supported by lobby had received approval with a multitude of amendments, questions, floor speeches, and votes. It was a lot to take in, but we lay it all out for you below. Together, these bills signal that Louisiana is open for business and taking meaningful steps to become more attractive to insurers. It wasn't all great news, as one major opposition bill cleared the floor before the gavel came down. The Senate has called it a week, heading home ahead of Memorial Day, set to return Tuesday afternoon. The House will convene this morning again at 1 p.m. Let's see. So here's some of what we have. Tell you what, let me take a break. We'll come back and kind of run down for you what they have as far as the bills right after this.
KSYL. Craving mouth-watering barbecue and juicy steaks? Head on over to Cole's Barbecue and Steakhouse, the top barbecue and steakhouse in Alexandria. Our warm and welcoming atmosphere is the perfect setting for a night out with friends or a family dinner. Indulge in our premium barbecue and steaks, fresh salads, and handcrafted burgers. Come as you are, we're ready to serve you. Visit Cole's Barbecue and Steakhouse today on Coliseum Boulevard across from the Rapides Parish Coliseum. Expect real good food.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing in Baton Rouge. First media availability at Saints OTAs, and we'll know LSU's opponent Friday night at the SEC Tournament. Join us 3 to 6. Alexandria's 94.7 ESPN.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything.
Nothing is everything.
Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Talkback, 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
All right, so Alan Nathan with you here this morning, going back to what I was talking about before the break. What did pass through the Senate yesterday in terms of auto insurance? According to lobby, Senator Alan Seabaugh, he's a Republican from Manny, handled the 3 House bills on the floor, kicking things off with HB 450 that was sponsored by Representative Michael Mallory of Shreveport. The bill legislatively overrules the Housley presumption, which requires a plaintiff to prove their injuries were caused by the accident. With each of the 3 House bills, came an attempt to add an amendment mandating insurers reduce premiums by 2% within 60 days of the bill's effective date. Not only is that not enough time for a loss to take effect, but as lobby and many others noted, there's no silver bullet to fixing this crisis. That said, the package of bills combined was designed to lower insurance costs, rein in lawsuit abuse, to make the state more attractive to insurers, with the ultimate goal of putting downward pressure on rates. the amendment to HB 450 failed, along with similar amendments to subsequent bills proposing that same change. In closing, the CBAW responded to comments about previous bites at the apple when it comes to legal reform, pointing out that the true reforms didn't pass or were vetoed, and what made it through the process was designed, quote, to pass something so we could stop having the conversation. He said, when people come up here and say we do tort reform year after year, that's absolutely fundamentally not true, he said. We've not passed comprehensive real litigation reform since the late 1990s. So again, I ask you, please vote for this bill. Let's actually start moving in the right direction, and it passed 28-9. All right, then he brought up HB 434. That was sponsored by Jason DeWitt, an incentive to comply with Louisiana's mandatory insurance law by raising the bar for recovery to $100,000 for bodily injury and property damage. The bill would help control insurance costs while encouraging participations in the insurance market, broadening the risk pool, which put downward pressure on rates. I believe it's not the one that it's $100,000 if you weren't insured, right?
That's my understanding. Right now, it's like a $10,000. You can't collect the first, or is it 15? Yeah, it's a low number. And so they raise it to a number that makes it have more teeth.
Yeah, so they, again, try to amend that with that same, quote, mandatory rate decrease. CBAW rightly noted the mandatory rate reductions would not get us out of the crisis. That amendment failed. And then HB 434 cleared 28-9. Next up was legislation aligning Louisiana with the majority of the country and following modified comparative fault system. HB 431 by Representative Emily Chenevert from Baton Rouge would bar damage recovery if the claimant is 51% or more at fault in causing their own damages. The CBAW said, we're simply just trying to do what everybody else does, and the fact is this isn't rocket science. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Other states are doing this, and that bill passed 28-9. And then finally, the last of the bills supported by lobby was Senate Bill 231 from Mike Reese of Leesville. CBAW offered amendments that restored the intent of the bill and allow the court to see both billed and paid amounts, along with evidence of letters of protection. The amendments on that were adopted 26-11. Another set of amendments addressed situations where a plaintiff pays in cash for medical treatment, limiting damages to the amount paid or owed to cover outstanding bills that have not yet been negotiated. Those amendments were adopted without objection, and then that cleared 27-8. So, as I said, my sources are saying that overall, it was a good night last night. Now, this HB 148, that was by Representative Jeff Wiley of Maurepas, restructures the process by which the Commissioner of Insurance disapproves rate filings, removing key distinctions for competitive and non-competitive markets while stripping away the objective benchmarks currently used to evaluate market competitiveness. Senator Kirk Talbot of River Ridge handled the bill on the floor, offering amendments. One positive change was that Senator Talbot's amendments returned language providing actuarial guardrails to that bill. So, looks like there's kind of a mixed result in that one. But
past 26-9 goes back to the House for concurrence.
Right. So I'm just reading this here because I'm kind of doing this cold.
Yeah, right. They give you, you just got that information sent in, which we appreciate. Our listeners sending this great information. Trying to find the different sources. Sometimes folks may report it a day or two later, but this happened. A lot of this stuff happened last night, so this really is breaking news.
Yeah, it didn't end until around 10 o'clock. Lobby notes that they applaud the 9 senators who stood against HB 148. Senators Elaine, Bass, Edmonds, Fessy, Miguez, Chuck Owen, Presley, CBAW, and Wheat. So those are generally your more conservative senators. So if you can see they've all lined up against it, probably wasn't the best bill. So, and that's the one that I'm told that the insurance commissioner likely will not be too crazy about. So it means if a rate is determined to be excessive by the insurance commissioner and the insurer disagrees, the insurer would be required to publish proprietary information, including how rates are determined, which would only disincentivize insurance investment in Louisiana while trying to do the opposite. Yeah, I don't think a lot of insurance companies would be excited to tell them how they determine their rates.
No, and that's where, I thought that was a really good job. Even Representative Johnson explained at the lobby at the NERBIA meeting on Monday, the the lack of communication between the governor and Secretary Temple, and I feel like he seemed, maybe I read into it, but he seemed hopeful that there would be some better communication in the future. You know, there's obviously something that's keeping them from I don't know if there's a political thing in their history that's got them on opposite sides or what, but we don't need them on opposite sides on this issue. We need them working together.
Oh, absolutely. Let me correct something that I said. Hang on a second. I said Chuck Owen. He's House of Representatives, so it's Robert Owen.
Okay, yeah.
So
you had me looking up. I'm over here looking up Chuck on to see if he'd shared anything about it.
Yep.
Last thing he shared was a Stephen Maxwell story that the Louisiana House Committee passed the bill to outlaw speed cameras, except in school zones. And so I don't know where that's going to go, but that would be a bill that a lot of citizens probably would be happy about. I know many municipalities use them as enforcement techniques. Some of them say they use them as collection methods.
Right.
But that's kind of got a mixed bag. So Steve Maxwell's another good one to keep watching. He just posted a minute ago Trump's response to his big, beautiful bill passing in the House. Trump says Dems are, quote, aimlessly wandering around. I went on that track because Chuck Owen shared Steve and then made me go look at what he had posted originally. So sorry about that. Rabbit Trail.
Yeah, Louisiana Motor Transport Association also posted about HB 148. They call it lipstick on a pig for insurance oversight. Again, it claims to give the insurance commissioner authority to set rates for insurance companies, but the truth is the commissioner already has the authority. The bill was amended, but LMTA still sees it as lipstick on a pig. It fails to deliver meaningful reform and risks misleading the public into thinking oversight has improved when in reality it is not. So they're urging lawmakers to reject this hollow attempt to reform it as it moves forward. Of course, ultimately, the governor could veto that. He could.
He could. You think he would? You know, I'm still afraid of that line item veto. That's the one that scares me the most.
Yes. By the way, Louisiana Motor Transport Association on their Facebook page, they have a pretty good summary of the bills that passed last night as well. So if you want to check that out. So there you go. Just scrolling through here a little bit to see what else. So yeah, Louisiana Motor Transport Association has been very, very, very vocal about, because their constituency has been impacted by this more than any.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, the trucker industry, of course, the billboard lawyers with the big trucks and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, this impacts little trucks, big trucks, all trucks, log trucks, trucks that are, carrying our goods to and fro throughout the state. So, yeah, I don't know that that's a group that we need to keep targeting.
And I'm not picking on a local attorney, but I saw Sam Spurgeon has a big truck billboard now. It used to be the guys down in South Louisiana that had the big trucks, but obviously that's a ripe target for lawsuits, and I think that's what the Louisiana Motor Transport Association is trying to help alleviate somewhat. Everybody has their causes, and advocates are going to advocate for what's important to them. Finding that right balance between things, because and I said this the other day and got called out for it, but I don't believe that trial lawyers are just bad people. I think they're working within the framework that the laws have given them to operate in. I know one trial lawyer who's very successful, who is incredibly generous on philanthropic stuff. And
you had the gentleman at Narbia the other day, older gentleman, remember? He made some comments after Mike Johnson's address, and I think it was
Charles Charrier.
Yeah, okay.
And he's an attorney, local attorney.
And his exact quote was something to the effect of, let me see if I can find it here, because I took some notes the other day, but he basically said all of these big lawyers have ruined the business.
He did say that. Yeah,
something to that effect. Or they kind of.
Charles, he's a great attorney. He's probably going to be retiring soon, but he's a local attorney. His big passion is historical association stuff, and and I was just thinking about some of these lawyers that they really do great things. And here's my point. I get off my point. If you are damaged and hurt in a way that limits of liability or whatever would create a problem for you in the long term, you're going to want somebody to fight for you.
Sure.
it's a necessary function in our society, and that shouldn't be vilified just because they're the easy guy to take a shot at.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make themselves the easy guy to take a shot at through these billboards, through the extravagances that we see, whether it's the turkey hunts or the excessive, multiple homes. And
I think there's a difference between lawyers that are truly wanting to serve people and are paid for what they do and deservedly so, and those have become completely opportunistic to take advantage of the system. So
that's the word.
So if you want to talk, good people, bad people, I think you have to really look at things like greedy people too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, preachers too. I mean, there's some greedy people in the pulpits.
No doubt, and everything. Yeah. His exact quote was this: "Lawyer advertising has ruined the profession." That's what he said.
Charles Sherrier.
All right, that's right. Coming right back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
Dentures. You can't live with them, and you definitely can't live without them. But what if we told you there's a better way? Today's Dental in Pineville is here to revolutionize your smile. Say goodbye to old-fashioned adhesives and endless appointments. They've made getting implants incredibly simple, low anxiety, and affordable for everyone. Picture this. In-office IV sedation administered by a highly skilled, certified nurse anesthetist, making the procedure low anxiety and stress-free. And the best part? Their multiple finance options make implants truly affordable. Don't wait. If you're ready to replace those old-timey dentures with permanent implants, call Today's Dental on Highway 28 East in Pineville at 448-4540. It's a general dental facility owned by Dr. Jonas Gauthier. That's 448-4540. Your perfect smile is just a call away. Today's Dental, because you deserve the best.
Summertime in Sinlaw is just around the corner. Time to explore. Feeling adventurous? Go biking or hiking in the National Forest, or camping at the many recreation areas that offer canoeing, kayaking, boating, and fishing. Fun for the whole family. Check out the animals at the zoo, on a petting farm, or at a drive-through safari. Love golf? Then hit the links. And for those with the taste for freshness, don't miss our farmers market. Want more ideas? Go to explorealexandriapineville.com.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYO. To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK-TALKBACK.
All right, we're back on Soft Hits 970 KSYO.
Heard that.
I corrected
yesterday.
Trish with that one yesterday.
You did.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Good morning. You're on Talkback.
Hey, good morning. Can I ask a question about the insurance? Listen, we all know driving is dangerous. When I bought my insurance, I know when I was young, just starting, you could get a 50, 25, 50 plan for just a little bit, or you could pay more and get a 300, 50. Those are the bounds of what they were going to pay. The problem I see comes in where these lawyers go to court and get this multi-million-dollar settlement for an incident that someone bought insurance for with a 50, 75, 50 limit. So it makes it impossible for the insurers who are legally doing business to guess their exposure. See, I don't understand. That's the legislation we need to target. The people who got that allowed. If I buy, Lloyd's of London been doing insurance since the 1600s, 1500s. We, when you have.
Okay, so what's your question? Just get to the question. You were saying you're coming back to ask the question.
Why can't we pass legislation that we buy insurance and this is the limit it's for? If something worse happens to us, then that's on us. We didn't buy enough insurance. And that way they would know exactly what they're insured and we know exactly what to pay. Thank you. You have a good day.
All right. Yeah. If you call back the second call, make sure you get right to your point. So don't know the answer to that. Maybe that's something we can ask if we get Gabe on at some point here. So going back to the Louisiana Motor Transport Association, these were the people that had also tried to put up a billboard down, I believe, in the Baton Rouge area.
That's right.
They did a post about it. The billboard Lamar doesn't want you to see. They had a clear message. It was this on the billboard. It says, "No free rides, we all pay." And it shows lawyers standing on the top of a truck that kind of caricatures cartoonish looking figures that resemble some people we're familiar with. It says, "Call 504-838-5433 to tell Cameron Henry what we want. Real insurance reform now.
And Lamar refused to run that billboard.
Yeah, not because of the content,
right,
but because it depicted some of their highest paying clients, the billboard lawyers. When billboard companies refuse business to protect powerful attorney clients, they say it's clear who's driving Louisiana sky-high insurance costs. Truckers and Louisiana families deserve better. Of course, Cameron Henry is the Senate president. Moon is a big fan of his. He said sarcastically. Let's take another call. Good morning. You want to talk back? Hello?
Good morning. I have a thought. You had Mr. Powell on yesterday, which is a delightful fellow.
Yes, sir.
And I mean that. What a great guy. But here's my point, and I'm very sincere, and I'd really like to hear other people's opinions. When we speak about the teachers and how much they need to be paid, here's my question. How much is enough?
I mean, that's something you can ask in a lot of arenas.
Well, no, I would like to have people's opinion about it because, nice, kind, give them all $80,000 a year.
All right. Well, we'll write you down for that number.
Okay. I'm just having fun with it because, how much is enough?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the call. We're out of time for this hour. We have Matt Ritchie coming up in hour number 2. How much is enough? How much should we be paid? How much should police officers be paid?
Mm-hmm.
How much should trial lawyers make? How much? I mean, you can say that from pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, and that is the question.
How much should athletes make?
Oh, there are a few who make more.
To Talkback. The opinions expressed were those of the hosts and callers, and not necessarily those of Cenlaw Broadcasting.
FM 104.9, AM 970, KSYL, and KRRV 100.3 HD3, Alexandria. It's 8 o'clock. Is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez, developing news from Washington, D.C., where officials say a gunman yelling "Free Palestine" killed 2 Israeli embassy workers outside the Capitol Jewish Museum last night. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
We will not tolerate this violence or hate in our city.
Witnesses say the suspect, a 30-year-old from Chicago, was arrested after he ran into the museum and pulled out a red keffiyeh. Embassy officials say the victims were planning to get engaged. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar.
These libels about genocide, crimes against humanity, and murdering babies paved the way exactly for such murders.
President Trump's massive tax and spending bill is on its way to the Senate after squeaking by in the House this morning by a vote of 215 to 214.
The bill is passed.
This is a major victory for President Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson.
It's a great day to be an American. It's a great day to be a Republican.
The legislation extends the expiring tax cuts and includes more money for the military and the border. It eliminates taxes on tips and overtime. The bill also makes big changes to Medicaid. Johnson's message to senators:
to modify this as little as possible because it will make it easier for us to get it over the line ultimately and finished and get it to the president's desk by July 4th.
Stacey Lynn, CBS News, Washington.
We're just in from Southern California. A small plane has crashed into a residential neighborhood in San Diego, setting about 15 homes on fire. Several blocks have been evacuated, including this man.
The police officer came into our door and knocked on the door. I was just like, something's going on, so I'm gonna have to get out of here, get my family, get my dogs, get my baby and my wife.
So far, no reports of injuries or deaths. There's no word yet on how many people were on that Cessna 550. A fire official says it was foggy at the time of the crash. Rapper Kid Cudi is scheduled to take the stand at Sean Combs' sex trafficking trial in New York today. CBS's Katrina Kaufman's at the courthouse.
He's someone that Cassie Ventura, Sean Combs' ex, was involved with for a bit. This supposedly angered Sean Combs. We've seen a threatening message, Cassie Ventura saying Combs was threatening her and Kid Cudi that he was going to hurt them, that he was going to release explicit sex tapes of her.
The Chicago Sun-Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer have apologized after they put out summer reading lists generated by artificial intelligence. They included acclaimed authors like Isabel Allende, Min Jin Lee, and Percival Everett. The problem, the titles weren't real. The papers blame AI chatbots that can't distinguish between what's true and what's false. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive. Protect your auto, home, and business with Progressive and get 24/7 coverage. See if you can save at Progressive.com. That's Progressive.com.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Jeff Palermo. Early childhood education advocates are urging the Louisiana Senate to spend more dollars on the Child Care Assistance Program. Sean Richardson reports the Louisiana House's proposed budget keeps funding at the same level as this year.
We were able to maintain the current level of funding that we have this fiscal year of about $78 million in the state's new budget for the next fiscal year.
That's Louisiana Policy Institute for Children CEO Libby Saunier, and she says that securing an additional $9 million to get back to the 2023-24 funding levels would allow for more assistance to help more children.
It would serve about 700 more children, so getting that $9 million back would allow us to serve that same number of children.
I'm Sean Richardson.
And state lawmakers now have an additional $139 million to spend next fiscal year. The Revenue Estimating Conference recognized the additional cash after hearing from economists who project the amount of revenue the state will collect after July 1st. LRN.
This is Dr. Jonathan Hunter with the clinics, where we pride ourselves in providing exceptional care. We offer a wide range of services, including primary care, family and chronic care, acute and urgent care, podiatry, and gastroenterology, along with an on-site lab and x-ray. Our new family medicine physician, Dr. Noah Miller, is accepting new patients. Same-day appointments are available, and most insurance and Medicare are accepted. The clinics, 1587 North Bolton, 445-9823. Online at theclinics.us.
Good morning. Partly cloudy skies in store for us today with the afternoon highs getting up to 88 degrees. With the winds out of the east-southeast at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. Now tonight, partly cloudy, only getting down to about 70 overnight. Our Friday, sunshine and clouds, a mixture. We'll see the afternoon highs near 90. And then for Saturday, we're seeing more sunshine with the afternoon highs near 91. Today's your forecast from the Cenla Broadcasting Weather Center. I'm Dick Grayson. Currently 65 degrees in Cenla.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics. With 27 providers and 3 locations, someone can see you today.
It's Talkback, Central Louisiana's longest-running talk show. Whether it's the guests or the callers, Talkback is where Central Louisiana begins its conversation.
All right, we are back for hour number 2 of Talkback here on your Thursday morning. I'm Al Quartermont along with Nathan Martin, and it is time for our Central Louisiana Economic Update with Matt Ritchie. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Al. Good morning, Nathan. Good to be with both of you. Thank you for accommodating the schedule this week.
Yeah.
2 days ago, Tuesday morning, which would have been my normally scheduled show, I was actually in Las Vegas at the International Shopping Center Convention, which is an amazing sight to see when you walk in the Las Vegas Convention Center is about, and I may get this wrong, but it's 1 million square feet or more, and a lot of these national conventions have places there because there's only so many places in America that can hold enough people to have a trade show that big and then have enough hotel rooms. And so Vegas is the place that this particular event happens every year. I've been going for about 20 years. I don't go every year because we just don't have that much retail going on here locally, and I 95% of my business is here in Central Louisiana. And so But I do like to get out, and I've been 2 years in a row, and I brought David Moses, who's an agent with me. David's been working with me since about 2006 and does a lot of commercial work. And then I bought a partner of mine, Van Eversole, who him and I own the Pine Shopping Center over in Pineville that we're currently redeveloping. And we have about 50,000 feet of retail space in there. And as you know, Nathan, we've talked about over the last, really year, we've been working on about three tenants that would fill up that 50,000 square feet. These things take time, and we know we talked about the loss of Harbor Freight back at the end of 24. I talked to the broker. Since I've already announced Harbor Freight, I might as well go ahead and talk about it freely, right? But we talked to the broker while we're out there this trip, and that's one thing about this particular convention. It gives you an opportunity to be in one place for a few days, where the brokers of every retailer in America that's expanding in certain markets. And look, you go down all these aisle after aisle after aisle in the trade show, and there may not be, you may have a retailer that, and all of them will show a whole map of the United States, and Louisiana may not be on there. I mean, actually, the southern part of the United States may not be on there. Certain retailers are expanding in certain markets. They do business in some markets are better than others, and so when you go and you see somebody expanding, you see Louisiana as an opportunity, you go and talk to them, and so I've always said, for our purposes, Louisiana, is one hurdle. The second hurdle is Central Louisiana,
right?
And then more specifically, when you start figuring out a lot of the folks with Alexandria having a higher population than the highest population in Rapides Parish, or Central Louisiana as a whole, they tend to gravitate towards Alexandria first. And so I know our mayors, some of our mayors of our smaller communities, listen to the show, and I want you to know that we do advocate when we're at these shows. I'm advocating to look at Pineville, look at Ball, look at Woodworth, and look at all of our surrounding communities. Look at Natchitoches. And so but the first challenge is Louisiana, then the second challenge is Central Louisiana, because the first, if a retailer's choosing to come to Louisiana, there are a lot of times they're looking at New Orleans market first, and then Baton Rouge market, and then Shreveport, and the larger markets, which makes sense. There's nothing special about retail or restaurants. They know that if there's X amount of people making X amount of dollars, they're going to sell their product, and because they've done it time and time and again in other markets, they know what it takes to be successful. And so we've always talked about different brands and different restaurant types and different things that we'd like to see in our market here in Alexandria, Pineville, and Central Louisiana. But our demographic, which means our income levels, number of jobs, number of folks working, making a certain amount of money, with education levels and all those things, just don't meet the criteria to serve a $50 steak, or because we just don't have enough people here who can support the overhead for a brand to come in and do that. So now, however, and I've been talking about this, I think ever since this show started 20-something years ago, they've been talking about Olive Garden, and I don't know if all the letters and emails and all the things from folks from Central Louisiana that reached out to Darden Foods, which owns Olive Garden. They're a big restaurant group that owns a lot of different brands. I don't know if they finally said, "Hey, we hear you, we're coming," and they saw the closure of Johnny Carino's being an opportunity. But now we know that Johnny Carino's is no longer there. If you've been by South MacArthur Drive, rather, and you'll see a new Olive Garden restaurant where the Johnny Carino's was. So
there had to be a lot of backstory to that. I wonder, obviously the Johnny Carino franchisee's lease must have run out. But I say obviously, I'm guessing that whoever had that franchise, the lease was up for that property, and did the property owner seek out Olive Garden? Did Olive Garden hear that their lease was coming up? And, and I have to admit, I had said to people a year ago, probably a year or two, I started saying Olive Garden is never coming to Alexandria. Might as well just stop, y'all. Just stop. They're never coming.
Right.
So I need to start saying never about more things. Because they did come. But, well, I mean, does Olive Garden franchise, or are they completely corporate owned, or what?
They're corporate owned stores.
Okay,
so Garden Foods, and what they do is they find operators, kind of like Outback. That Outback owns that's Outback owned real estate, but then they find managing partners, basically, or managing operators to manage those things.
Well, a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, Outback was advertising for an operator in Pineville, and apparently couldn't find anybody willing to. I don't know if the operator's got to put up money or what, but.
Well, yeah, I think there's definitely an investment that the franchise expects, because obviously they want their operators to have a little skin in the game. So it's a way to, have ownership, have local ownership, someone in the market, rather than just having, hundreds of just managers out there with really no skin in the game. So I understand the concept, but going back to your point, I was saying the same thing, Nathan. So we're not getting an Olive Garden. Olive Garden's not. Olive Garden's not coming, and I was proved wrong, and I'm happy to say we were happy that I was wrong about that, and I really, really, truly hope that our markets can support it and will support it, because we talked to a group, a restaurant group at the show this week. And I'm not gonna name the brand, but I will tell you that I said, hey, look, we have a store in Alexandria, and I said, have you looked at Pineville as an opportunity? And he said, yeah, we actually are looking at Pineville. He said the franchise owner that has the one in Alexandria has about 50 stores. He said, but he said let me look it up. He said, yeah, that's an underperforming store, which means Alexandria is an underperforming store. I said, well, okay, so why would he want to move? Why would he want to have a location in Pineville? And he said, he has enough stores doing, they're overperforming, and then just kind of a dollar cost average, and says he'll, and he sees, and they know the numbers and that they could potentially do in Pineville. So they're looking at Pineville as a market. And so anyway, that hopefully that will grow into something, and that's something that we actually can put together. But I had a really good show. I mean, it was just I had various vendors that I had a chance to talk to. I'd had 4 meetings with 4 major retailers about coming to Central Louisiana, and actually a Natchitoches location. I don't own a center up there, but my partner Van Eversole owns the Dixie Plaza on Kaiser Avenue, which is about as good as you can get here in Alexandria, like compared to if you had like MacArthur Village. That's the MacArthur Village of Natchitoches, and he's got about 40,000 feet available up there, and we're trying to backfill that space too. So
I recall you talking about going there in the past, and how you got these limited windows to hit these people up. I saw some pictures of it, and it's huge. It blows me away. The only thing that disappointed me is there was no samples. Like Chipotle wasn't giving out samples of their food or anything. But Jersey Mike's was. Oh,
Jersey, that was basically lunch. Okay, because the show's so big, it's kind of hard to walk in a day and a half or 2 days, and it's only a 2-day show, and actually it cuts early on Tuesday, and so it's all day Monday, but to leave and come back was just too big. So Jersey Mike is just spinning out. I mean, just spitting out.
Wow.
The lines are like 200 feet long. And so just trade show participants are going through and getting Jersey Mike sandwiches, and Marco Pizza. That's a brand that we don't have here.
I do like Marco's. Their thin crust pepperoni is fire.
Well, they had those at the trade show. So,
really?
Yeah. So they were, in those lines, and then Steak and Shake, which is a brand that we don't have here.
They now fry their fries in tallow, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They made that switch.
So I talked to the Steak and Shake guys. I said, "What about Louisiana?" He said, He said, "Man, look, find me a franchisee. We would love to come to Alexandria, Pineville area. Just find me a franchise."
Wow.
Find me somebody
they would do big business.
I think they would do it because the Well, the price point, because it's not a high dollar burger.
Right.
I mean, it's not a Five Guys, and it's one of those under $10 combo brands. But so they were giving out shakes.
Oh,
so you got Jersey Mike's on one end, in the middle you had the pizza, and then you had Steak and Shake doing little shakes. So
you know what? Another brand that we don't have here anymore is Godfather's, and I'm surprised we don't have. And I've seen them in gas stations now, like kind of like the Hunt Brothers Pizza.
Yeah.
Godfather's now is doing some in a few gas. I don't remember where I saw them, but I'm surprised that maybe there's going to be a comeback. I don't know, but I bought a pizza and it brought me back to the old MacArthur Village days.
Oh yeah,
you remember when they had one there by the Dollar Cinema?
Some of the good greasiest pizzas you ever had,
and it still was from that gas station. So
yeah, so they must not be expanding because they weren't at the show. And that doesn't mean they're not expanding because they're not at the show. But most brands who are really doing full expansions all across the country are at that show, and I didn't see Godfather's. I did see the brand called International Restaurant Brands, or no, RBI is what they actually go by. They actually owned Tim Hortons, Popeyes, Burger King, and Firehouse Subs. So the one restaurant group owns those 4 brands, and so obviously I talked to those guys, and I actually was trying to get some inquiries about what's going on with our local stores that are closed, and so he actually turned me on to the broker who's going to be handling those for on the disposition side of them. And so they're obviously trying to maximize what they can get out of them, and so they're trying to do their own deals, trying to find maybe other restaurant operators who can just retrofit the building instead of doing a tear down, because you're talking about $1 million to $1.5 million. Even though those buildings aren't very big, you're still looking at $1 million, $1.5 million to build those little small restaurants.
That was one that surprised me. I had assumed, huge assumption, that Olive Garden might use the Carino's infrastructure, the Johnny Carino's infrastructure.
Nathan, blew my mind.
Yeah.
Blew my mind that they scraped that building. Because if you're going to scrape the building, was that the best spot for it?
Right.
Because if it's going to cost you the same amount of money to build at that on that location, with the exception of the parking lot, because they are going to be able to reuse the parking, and that concrete costs a lot. But I think I don't know if they did, because actually the same broker, coincidentally, the same broker who did the Olive Garden deal is actually the same broker who I was doing the Harbor Freight deal with. A guy named Jonathan Fowler out of New Orleans. He's a corporate realty, and they have a national contract. They're the national Louisiana broker for a lot of these big brands, and so. But he didn't give me any indication that they were looking at any other sites other than there, which blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. What's our time like? Because we've got a lot of deals to talk about. We actually have a lot of transactions that took place between May 1st and May 15th.
Sounds good. Well, we need to take a break.
All right.
That's how our time is right now.
Well, good deal. We'll talk about those when we come back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics, with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
The Legend Lives On is coming to Alexandria. It's the world-renowned Elvis tribute, starring Moses Snow and Craig Parker, 2 electrifying performers bringing the king back to life on stage with special guest MC Elvis Presley, former tour producer Charles Stowe. Friday, May 31st at the Lavorde Earls Entertainment Center next to the Coliseum. Showtime is 7 p.m. Tickets start at just $29. VIP meet and greet tickets available for $69. Get yours now at the Coliseum box office or Ticketmaster.com.
In Sinlaw, keeping your lawn looking great can be a real challenge. And that's why folks have been choosing our locally owned and operated company, Promo Fencing and Lawn Care. Promo can also be your local choice for fence installation and new landscape installs. They're real pros about it too, offering free estimates and financing for those bigger jobs, residential or commercial. Bring your vision to life with Promo Fencing and Lawn Care. Call 318-452-6265.
Hi, it's Tori DeVito. In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. Like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic.
Your honesty about that part of your life gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted to uphold in my own life.
I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs. I said it a lot. and I'm glad you took it to heart.
Talk, they hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Don't risk losing the trusted news, traffic, sports, and weather you get from AM radio stations. It's time to make your voice heard. We need Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars. When internet and cell services are out, AM could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this critical legislation now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text stop to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide, bringing patients from sick to recovering, from emergency to aid, from crisis to care. This life-saving care is made possible by a global movement of supporters like you. Thank you.
If you'd like to take part in the show today, call the BOM Bank Talkline at 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. And remember, if you're looking to purchase or refinance your home, call Christina Bagwell at the BOM Bank Mortgage Department at 448-2430.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYO. Now back to Talkback.
All right, we're back with Matt Ritchie here on your Thursday morning. Al Quartermont and Nathan Martin with you as well. So we were talking going into the break.
Yeah, so
deals
I try to follow my notes.
Okay.
And so I've got on my notes. I had a national stories, local impact. That was my ICSC story, which we spent a lot more time than I anticipated on that. But good conversation. But I do want to, in my notes, I want to keep talking about the Monroe Retail Group that owns the Power Center, 1601 Palomino Ridge Drive, Austin, Texas, 78733. If you want to reach out to them, tell them that they need to fix their parking lot. I think that's going to be the only way we get anything out of those guys. Leases of interest, Tim and Tracy Ha lease a building, about a 4,200 square foot building over in Pineville on Highway 28, 28 East, across from the First Federal Bank. Used to be Danny James's office. Had Team Realty there, right past the little center where Gators used to be at, and the little gym right there on 28, right across the street from Jim Dagy's restaurant. It's kind of a point of reference. Tim and Tracy Hyde bought that building, and they leased it to a healthcare group, Accessible Healthcare, and so they just that building had sat empty for a while. So good to see them fill that up, and then Progressive Tractors is leasing back to Giles Cars of Alexandria, the old M&M Dodge dealership, and that's a transaction I'm going to talk about. I'll go ahead and talk about that one now. M&M Dodge Inc. Sells to Progressive Tractor Holdings, group out of Opelousas. They're an equipment tractor operation. Right there in the corner, we all know remember that commercial, the corner of Stokes and MacArthur? That was
the trading corner.
The trading corner, exactly what that was. If you want to know what $1,600,000 looks like, that's what that property sold for. So congratulations for all the parties in that deal. And so it looks like Giles, until they get their location on by Beulah Lake at Central State Hospital finished, they'll stay there in that location. At the M&M Dodge location, lease it back from Progressive, and then once they move out, I'm sure you'll see Progressive Tractors start doing work on that location, and they'll move in. Commercial sales to think about. We actually had several commercial sales in the first 2 weeks of May 1st through May 15th is what I'm reporting on. And I think I talked about this one. I think I catch this one on the last show, but I'll go ahead and mention again, 192 Pine Grove Drive. That's Nugent Investment Properties, sells to Sea Pine Holdings. Out of Encinita, California, $315,000. That's a little multi-tenant building right when you're coming off of Melrose or Highway 107 at Lebo's, and you're going towards 28. Nugent had his music store there, and also there was a little church in there. And an accounting group bought that.
Did you meet the owner on the flight?
I did. Yeah, I was coming back, and I met this lady, and she was sitting by me. I said, what are you doing in Pineville and Alexandria? And she said, well, I want a accounting, basic bookkeeping firm. We specialize in, I forget the industry she said, but she said my main leader is here in Pineville, and so we bought a building, and she started telling me about it, so we got to talking about it. So yeah, so that was good to see that, and some out of town investor. I'm glad Herbert Nugent got to sell that building. Another sale took place was SMG of Alexandria. They're actually out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. They sell to GlobeCon Media, which actually has a DeVille, Louisiana address. It's in, I looked it up at 1920 Bayou Marie in Pineville. It was a $350,000 sale. And I said, hold on, what's sold on Bayou Marie for $350,000? I looked it up and it was a big tower, like a cell tower sale. And a lot of those sell like on, they're just like an investment sale. It's generating X amount of dollars. And so it looks like this group out of Tulsa sells to a local media group for $350,000. St. James Episcopal Church sells a portion of their campus, which is over their main church is at 1620 Murray Street, and then on the backside of their campus on 16th Street, 901 16th, was where they had like their little school, and I know my son actually went to preschool there years and years ago. But St. James sold to the Children's Advocacy Network, 901 16th Street, which is like I said, the block directly behind the church, the main church, and they sold that for $620,000. Oh, wow. So I thought that was a very interesting sale. Obviously, $620,000 is is a lot of money when you start talking about downtown areas. But that building, it had some age on it, but it was still in pretty good shape. And but when you basically see a church selling to a nonprofit essentially, that's a lot of money to come up with. So I'm glad it's going to work out for both of them.
Well, the Children's Advocacy is actually right across the street. So they're expanding. They have.
Oh, it's an expansion. I didn't realize that.
My understanding, they're in. You might remember years ago, Jimmy Faircloth and Villard and Elliott had.
Yeah.
They're in that building, which fronts Jackson Street, but the parking is on Murray Street or whatever.
Well, so it's Albert Street. So right behind. So you have Jackson, Albert, and then Murray. So this whole thing takes up almost the whole block between Albert and Murray.
That's a great expansion for Children's Advocacy.
Yeah, no, good for them. And look, and there's no way on this. There's no way they could ever, build anything for that kind of money. So, right. So I'm glad it all worked. I'm glad it worked out for both of those groups. Another sale of interest, another $700,000 sale was the old Family Dollar and Dollar Tree in the Holloway community out on 28 East. Sells for $700,000. Sells to an LLC with a Highway 115 DeVille address. So glad that property will get back in commerce. Another sale of interest is going back to 28 East, a $1.4 million sale. A group out of BMC Pineville is what their company name was. And they're located at Madison Avenue, New York, New York. So a New York company sells to a company called Airline Highway MB LLCs. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Ray Jane LLC. That was reading their address. But Ray Jane LLC buys from a group out of New York, the Burger King on 28 East.
Okay.
Which is adjacent to me. Actually, I did that deal.
You developed that.
Yeah, I bought that property. That was a 2-acre site. I brought it from Randy Monsour.
Had 2 facing strip centers, essentially.
It did.
And you tore down one side.
Sold that side to Burger King. Mm-hmm. And then I put a new face and new storefront, all new glass, all new storefront. It still looks good today.
It looks great. That's where Genghis is. There's a bank there on the corners.
LA Capital Credit Union, Genghis Grill, and
there was a pharmacy in there. There was a
pharmacy in there, and then she ended up moving to a standalone location. Mm-hmm. I don't know that she's in business anymore. Mm-hmm. But Legacy Floral, Alan Bryant is the tenant there, and they all 3 of them have been there ever since. I'll go ahead and plug that. I wasn't going to do that, but I'll go ahead and plug. I've got 2,400 square feet of space available on the end cap, and those that may need a drive-through, we could put a drive-through in. So think about that, any listeners out there, if you need 2,400 square feet. It's very reasonably priced at $2,400 a month.
That's a great location.
Which is about $12 a square foot gross rent. Really good location. And so 2,400 square feet. That's but I've got 3 of the 4 original tenants still in there, and that was, we did that in 2012. So now we're 13 years later. So we've got, I was telling them we've got to take a break. We've got several more good transactions to talk about when we come back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. OpenAI will acquire the AI device startup co-founded by Apple veteran Johnny Ive in an almost $6.5 billion all-stock deal. This is the largest purchase in OpenAI's history. Acquiring the secret startup named I.O. also will secure the services of Ive and other former Apple designers who are behind iconic products such as the iPhone. AT&T is buying the consumer fiber operations of Lumen Technologies for $5.75 billion, expanding its fast broadband service in major cities like Denver and Las Vegas. The deal helps AT&T increase its long-term goal of putting its fiber optic lines within reach of more homes and businesses. Stock futures were mixed at last check after a sell-off on Wall Street yesterday, sparked by deficit concerns and retail earnings. The Dow fell 817 points, the S&P 500 slid 96, the Nasdaq fell 270. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
So, tell me, when is the worst possible day for your AC system to fail? Any day this summer! That's right, and right now, Southern Air is offering a comprehensive AC tune-up for a special price of $59 per system. But you must book your appointment by May 31st to lock in this special offer. Don't wait until your cooling system fails on the hottest day of the year. Act now, let us bear it. Visit southernairnow.com or call 318-777-5555.
Success is about momentum. For over 20 years, Kinetics has been moving businesses forward with cutting-edge IT, cybersecurity, and marketing solutions while keeping them secure, innovative, and competitive. We power progress with next-gen business technology and marketing solutions designed to keep your business ahead of the competition. Need seamless IT, a bold new brand, a strategy built for what's next? Don't get left behind. Move forward with Kinetics. Visit kbisp.com and take the next step today.
Louisiana, game night just got interesting. This is your chance to build an empire, one scratch at a time. Play Monopoly Scratch Off from the lottery. Win up to $15,000. Choose your words carefully. Every letter counts when cash is on the line. Spell out your fortune and play Scrabble Scratch Off. Top prize $50,000. It's not just a game, it's a game changer.
The game is afoot. It's a classic case of mystery and deception. And everyone's a suspect.
Whoever you choose, uncover the mysteries of the new Clue Scratch-Off. Top prize is a whopping $100,000. All 3 fun and exciting games are available with Fast Play. Louisiana Lottery, giving you a reason to smile. Must be at least 21 to purchase. Clue, Monopoly, and Scrabble are trademarks of Hasbro.
Good morning. Partly cloudy skies in store for us today with the afternoon highs getting up to 88 degrees. With the winds out of the east-southeast at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. Now tonight, partly cloudy, only getting down to about 70 overnight. Our Friday, sunshine and clouds, a mixture. We'll see the afternoon highs near 90. And then for Saturday, we're saying more sunshine with the afternoon highs near 91. Today's your forecast from the Cenla Broadcasting Weather Center. I'm Nick Ritchie. Currently 71 degrees in Cenla.
Now back to Talkback, 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYO.
All right, we're back with Matt Ritchie, and he's continuing to run down some of the deals since the last time he was on.
Yeah, before I forget, I just want to welcome anybody to call. If you have any questions about anything, give us a call, 442-TALK.
I did have a question that came in via Facebook. Let me find it here. Hang on a second. Yes. What is happening? Saw ground broken between Evangeline and Colfax banks in Kingsville.
They saw groundbreaking between
Evangeline and Colfax banks.
That's one of the only lots left in that little corridor. Steve Ayers owns that lot. I know he had been holding out on. There's a lot of folks interested in that lot. Any drive-by reporters out there have any idea? That's actually one I don't know. I haven't seen that. unless it's maybe some construction work, infrastructure work going on. I don't know of a deal being had there, but I'll definitely look into it.
Behind where the bank is and Burger King, it looks like they're putting a new residential community there.
Oh, across the street, kind of towards the expressway. Yeah, that's J.D. Durand is doing I forget what he calls. He's got several names for his apartment properties, but he built, I think he's building 40 duplexes back there.
Well, and I think it may connect through to Lord of Lords, King of Kings.
JD he bought a strip right behind the I think it's now the Oyo Hotel, which originally was a Days Inn, that will have a separate exit that way. But yeah, if you drive down Mary Hill Road, if you turn right there at Gary Barr's Chevron, between there and Sonic and the flower shop, going towards Pardue Road, pass up Buckets, and then to the left is right where Pardue Road actually hits Mary Hill Road. To the left, JD's got
it's beautiful.
It's turned out really, really nice, and JD does a really good job on his. He does really good landscaping. He does really good interior work, and so it's a much needed. I know he's had several P&G people, and I don't know if that was his plan originally, but folks coming in, management coming in and out, and for P&G, it's right there. It's in the cluster of shopping, and so it's a good spot for us. So that's definitely going there. But going back to the original question, I'm going to find out like ASAP. I'm going to find out as soon as I get off the show.
One of the things that's interesting to me about that J.D. Durand development is that street is not it's not a public street. He kept that. It's built. It looks like a public street. Yeah. With curb and gutter and everything.
Right.
But that whole development is private. So.
Well, and most developers, as you know, you've been around this long enough, Nathan. I mean, it's expensive to do that, and so most developers, if they don't have to do that and they can keep the street private, they won't go to that expense.
That's why it impressed me, because he did do that higher end development and he kept it private. Because normally you donate it to the public, so they'll maintain it.
So they can fill in the potholes
right.
and they can sweep them and that kind of thing. So, that definitely looks good. Definitely super quality. And that's the kind of developments that we want here in Central Louisiana, because it just, you can tell the difference. And that's when you drive around and you don't think about it on a regular basis. But when you drive into a neighborhood that has open ditches and no curb and gutter and no subsurface drainage, and then you drive into something that has that, it's a huge difference. Underground utilities is another thing that I wish that we could do more of. And then you drive around the Lake District, that's what you see is underground utilities. You don't see high wires, poles everywhere and that kind of thing. It just makes a big difference. Largest transaction of the last 2 weeks was a group out of Houston, Texas, that bought Cecil Gassett's old shop over on Eddie Williams Boulevard. It's actually got an address of 6006 Old Baton Rouge Highway. Here locally, we call it Eddie Williams Boulevard. You can see it from the interstate, and almost at the intersection at the T of Highway 71 and I-49. You had about a 20,000 square foot building over there that Cecil Gassett had his contractor business there for a long time. He sold it about a year and a half ago to, and I can't pronounce his name, Waukesha Pierce Industries out of Houston, which is actually a group that actually owns part of the head H&E equipment.
Oh.
Yeah, and so and they were separating their sales department and their leasing department, because they sell big equipment, but they also lease big equipment. They lease it on you need a little tractor, a little backhoe or something for the weekend. You can go lease one, or maybe a contractor needs a dozer for a couple of months. They have the leasing side, but then they also have the sales side. Well, this group, interesting story about this. This group buys it, and they. The building itself was going to work for them. The size of the lot was going to work for them. All that was working. But then what happened was they went in there to start really getting into to retrofit. The foundation of the building wasn't suitable for what they're doing. And so they literally couldn't use the building.
Oh, no.
And so that's another thing. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was visiting a property that's not it was built like a big, it could be multi-use. And we were talking about, you got high ceilings, you've got a lot of space inside, you've got this, but how thick is the slab? Because if you start bringing in big forklifts, heavy equipment, the foundation doesn't support it. I'll tell you another building here locally that has that. It's the kids' place over behind Mandarin. You got tall ceilings, and you got a lot of tall space, but the foundation when they built that is only about 4 inches, which is normal. For like just a residential or a light commercial activity, such as a kids entertainment facility like that.
They would have big footings.
You don't need that.
Yeah, the big footings would have been where the beams came down, but outside of that, you don't have to have it. But you're not going to run forklifts through there.
Exactly. You can't have heavy equipment and heavy industrial stuff. So that's what happened. They couldn't use the building. So they turned around and they've sold it. Largest transaction in the last 2 weeks was $1.625 million, $1,625,000. And they sold it to Security Metal. So it looks like Security Metal is going to be moving off of Masonic Drive, and they'll be moving out to that location to a much larger location. And so happy for both of those folks that happen to make a deal. And when we come back, we got other commercial land sales to talk about.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
The cost of air travel is more than just the ticket price. It's also fuel, meals, lodging, parking, and time. Recalculating. The more we fly AEX, the better our chances of bringing back flights to Houston and Charlotte. Support AEX and help our community grow. Find your true cost at local.flyaex.org.
Attention all real estate agents, property owners, and lenders. When you or a client needs a real estate attorney, call the professionals at Thompson Law Firm. Whether the legal matter is basic or complex, the Thompson Law Firm can accurately guide you or your client to a successful outcome. That's why numerous industry professionals have trusted the Thompson Law Firm for years. They also handle estate planning, successions, and business law. Call them at 473-0052. I am a paid non-client attorney spokesperson.
80 million listeners depend on AM radio to always be on, delivering news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports you can trust. AM radio also delivers vital emergency information when you need it most. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act to keep AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
I'm Tony Goldwyn. As an actor and a director, I attend a lot of screenings. But there's one that's different. It's important, and it could save your life. A lung cancer screening. You know, I lost my mom to lung cancer when she was just 68 years old. Screenings help diagnose lung cancer early when it's most treatable, even curable. A quick low-dose CT scan is all it takes. Go-To for lung cancer is your go-to. Visit goto.org.
What are you doing out there?
Come on!
I saw you at the game the other night. Yeah, you. Up there getting mad, acting like we're all out there making $1 million a game. Well, let me be real with you. This isn't the pros. It's school sports, and it's a game, our game. So please, let us play.
School sports fans, remember, when you cheer for your team, make noise for the right reasons. This message presented by the NFHS and the NIAAA.
And all student athletes in Louisiana.
Do you have a drug problem? Do you want to stop? Well, there are folks who can help. Call Narcotics Anonymous at 1-585-DON'T-USE or visit their website at larna.org for more information.
Talkback. To take part of the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK.
All right, we're back with Matt and continuing to look at some of the deals that have been transpiring here in Central Louisiana.
So yeah, we're going to keep talking about deals. We've got a fairly active market right now, especially on the commercial side. Now I'll tell you what we we didn't see for the first 2 weeks, we didn't see any new construction sales.
Okay.
And that's the first time that I've reported, maybe the second time in about a year, that I haven't reported at least one of the D.R. Horton sales.
I was about to say, so no D.R. Horton sales.
No, none in the first 2 weeks of.
But they've almost filled that place up over there at the old town.
They have.
There won't be much.
That's right, and they're definitely, they're looking at other spaces. They bought 100 acres, not 100 acres. They bought 20 acres from the Northport Property Group at North Bolton, and they're going to be building another 100 lots there. And then, talking about residential construction, Billy McKay and Yvonne McKay Living Trust sells to Dan Aaron's Interest LLC, almost 22 acres out in Ball.
I can tell you a little bit about that story.
Okay.
That was going to be a D.R. Horton development.
Well, that's what I was going to mention that. Yeah, I'm glad you said it. But I was going to mention that because, and then I think that was right around the time. And look, this is what, and look, we're on local radio right now, right? So we can just talk about this. And I don't want to. I'm just going to state the facts that I know. And if I'm wrong, please, anyone out there listening, call in. But to my knowledge, this is what happens. Social media comes into play. Right around the time they were planning, the town of Ball had approved that. Had approved, or preliminary.
The Rapids Area Planning Commission had, but the town of Ball did not.
But it was looking positive. I think they were. I think all the local politics was coming into play, and they were saying, hey, look, we want to do this, and I think this is going to be good. We'd love to have 7. I think it was going to be 70 new homes. Built in the top, think about the tax base that's going to bring to not only the town of Ball, but the Rapides Parish. So we as a parish definitely would like to have 70 new homes built. Town of Ball, some of the folks that make those decisions, they start seeing some social media things in Alexandria about how foundations are potentially being built and that kind of thing. And like I said, I don't have a dog in this D.R. Horton hunt whatsoever, but I'm just kind of stating what I know. And so social media comes into play. A few hundred people comment about it, and they may or may not even know what they're even talking about on social media.
Right.
And but it gets in the ears of the folks that are making the decision makers, and they go, hold on, no. We don't want that here. We don't want that in Ball. And so, and I know Dan was working with D.R. Horton because the way D.R. Horton structures their deals are, they'll go out and they get preferred what they call developers. They'll just get developers out there. They may have a handful of developers that they work with. They have some that they work with on a regular basis, and they go all over the state and all over the country building for them. But you get into some other smaller locales where you don't have maybe that developer. It's too small of a deal. A 70-unit deal isn't big enough for one of their major developers to come in. So they may find somebody local who's willing to go take down the land. When I mean by take down land, identify the property, buy it, go through all the proper regulatory and local ordinances and subdivision process, which is going, submitting it to the Rapides Area Planning Commission, having it engineered, putting it out on paper, bringing it to the STAR Committee, getting it approved by the Planning Commission, getting it approved by the police jury, and you got that whole multi-month process and investment, by the way, because a developer, you just don't draw something up and then for a few $1,000. You've got real investment into hiring engineering and doing civil engineering and just the whole process of submitting a subdivision. So, and to know that it may or may not happen. And so Dan goes out there, he talks to the D.R. Horton folks, says, hey, I'll go do that 70 lot subdivision. So Dan's going to go take down the property. He paid $260,000 for 21.7 acres in Ball, and was going to do I think I'm right. It's about a 70 lot subdivision. And and so to my knowledge, D.R. Horton, Ball's not going to do the deal with D.R. Horton, but it's going to allow Dan to still buy the property, And I think Dan's, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I think I know who it is. I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but I think Dan's found a local guy a local investor, home builder who's going to go in and build homes. And I think they may be for lease. He may end up selling some of them, but I know kind of his MO right now is to buy new construction, to build new construction and actually have and then lease them out instead of selling them. So we'll see I think there's still a lot to come with that because I did see in the mortgage records where not only Dan, when he bought the property, he also took out a mortgage. It was a 7-figure mortgage too, to put all the infrastructure in. That's what a lot of folks don't realize. Yeah. It takes a lot of money to go build streets and put in water and sewer and that kind of thing. So good luck to Dan on this project. And I think it'll be successful because I think there's definitely a need because as I said, we don't have anybody locally building new construction in that $200,000 to $300,000 range. So we'll talk about a few other deals when we come back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
You too could have a beautiful smile in as little as 12 weeks. Exclusive to Today's Dental in Pineville, Virtual Align Clear Aligners. The fastest, most convenient, affordable way to straighten your teeth for people on the go. Plus, they're invisible. No one will know you're doing it. Experience the Virtual Align difference. Call Today's Dental at 448-4540. It's a general dental facility on Highway 28 East in Pineville, owned by Dr. Jonas Goche. 448-4540.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by Decision Critical, Concierge Nursing in Baton Rouge. First media availability at Saints OTAs, and we'll know LSU's opponent Friday night at the SEC Tournament. Join us 3 to 6. Alexandria's 94.7 ESPN.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
We're Sinlaw Broadcasting, local and proud of it, just like this group.
The Central Louisiana chapter of the American Red Cross is located on Bolton Avenue, right here in Alexandria. Their mission is to prevent human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the generosity of donors and the power of volunteers. And since volunteers are a big part of everything they do, they could use your help. Learn more online at redcross.org.
This has been a public service reminder from Sinlaw Broadcasting.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months. When he got injured, I knew I had to be strong. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. We build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access and automatic door openers that allow them to focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
Visit hfotusa.org.
Sinlaw Broadcasting is local, so we promote the locals.
Beneath a canopy of mighty oaks, towering cypress trees, and colorful bamboo, discover over 500 remarkable animals from all over the world. The Alexandria Zoo is the area's largest year-round family attraction. Come explore a natural world filled with hoots, howls, and roars, right here in the heart of Central Louisiana. Learn more about it or volunteer at thealexandriazoo.com.
This has been a public service reminder from Sinlaw Broadcasting.
Talkback. To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK.
All right, last segment of the morning with Matt Ritchie. It always goes so quickly, but we got a few more deals to talk about.
We do. Petron sells to D&M Properties of Alexandria. That is actually about a 3+ acre tract on the backside of Whataburger. Matter of fact, we just recently, my office just recently listed the corner of Cloverdale and Coliseum Boulevard, which is where Union Bank had originally bought when that property was redeveloped. And then First Guarantee Bank bought Union Bank out. And now First Guaranty's decided they're not going to build a branch there. And so we listed that property last week. We had a right off the bat interest in that corner because it was really the last corner lot out there available. I mean, it was just, I don't know of a better lot out there other than the opposite corner where you have the Rick's number 2 used car place. Yeah. But about 1.25 acre lot listed for around $800,000, and we got right at it. On a sale, so we have it under contract already. But right behind there was about a 3.5 acre site that Petron had owned, and it sold to D&M Properties for $340,000, and that address is 7200 Coliseum Boulevard. So you'll see, and I believe the buyer was speculating. I don't know that you have anything going on right there right now, but when you start talking about 3 acres right off Coliseum Boulevard with direct access right down off Cloverdale, I think that was actually a pretty good buy for D&M Properties in Alexandria. We have a couple of residential sales. I just thought I would interest. It was very curious to me when I see, and I think folks may find some interest in this, but there was a property at Fenler Parkway, and at 255 Fenler Parkway sells for $221,000. And I said, wow, Village Green, that's Village Green subdivision out off of 28 East in Pineville. It was built in the mid-'70s. One of the first neighborhoods in Pineville to be built with a common area pool and that kind of thing. But those homes originally sold in the 1975, 1977 range for $34,000 to $38,000, brand new construction. Wow. In the mid-'70s, and now they're selling for $221,000. Just thought it was interesting. And then Grundy Cooper saw a sale for $170,000, and you could buy those brand new for $13,900 back in the '50s. So very interested to see how that works. And had a great show. Thank y'all for accommodating.
Thank you.
Talk to you next time.
You've been listening to Talkback. The opinions expressed were those of the hosts and callers, and not necessarily those of Cenlaw Broadcasting. FM 104.9, AM 970, KSYL, and KRRV 100.3 HD3 Alexandria.
It's 9 o'clock.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. An arrest in the shooting deaths of a young couple outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. The suspect, police say, is a 30-year-old from Chicago who shouted his message as he was taken into custody when he entered the museum. The victims, Israeli embassy staffers Yaron Leshinsky and Sarah Milgram. The Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yehiel Leiter.
The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem.
Reporter Linda Gradstein has more from Jerusalem.
In a statement, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he had ordered security arrangements to be boosted in Israeli diplomatic missions around the world. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar called it a direct result of toxic anti-Semitism against Israel and Jews around the world.
President Trump cheering on social media after lawmakers in the House pulled off the narrowest of victories to pass what the president calls his big, beautiful spending plan. Correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns from Capitol Hill.
It cuts billions in federal spending to Medicaid, food stamps, and energy subsidies. It also increases spending, though, on defense and immigration enforcement, and it makes permanent Trump's tax cuts that he passed during his first term, and also delivers on a key campaign promise to eliminate tax on tips and overtime pay.
Next up, the Senate. We've learned about a shooting outside CIA headquarters in Virginia this morning. CBS's Jennifer Jacobs.
Sources told CBS News that CIA security shot a female driver who approached the main gate and failed to stop. The woman was taken to a medical facility with what officials believed were non-fatal injuries. The CIA and the FBI were looking into the matter.
Fire officials in San Diego say it was foggy out when a small plane crashed into the Murphy Canyon neighborhood this morning, setting about 15 homes on fire. Several blocks were evacuated. KFMB TV's Kenny McGregor.
It's still smoldering in between these cars. Can't really make out what kind of cars they are. Obviously, they've just been utterly obliterated.
So far, no word on injuries or how many people were on the plane. The neighborhood is home to many military families.